Hi learners, today we are going to go over reflection of shapes on the Cartesian plane or the coordinate plane. And we will show you how to do this on the x-axis and the y-axis. And this one's really fun because there's a little trick that if you can remember it, it will make it super simple for you to do. Okay, so the trick is this. When you are doing a reflection over the x-axis, the x-coordinate stays the same. And the y is just the opposite. What do we mean by opposite? We mean either positive or negative. So if it's a positive 2, you would change it to a negative 2. And if it was a negative 2, you would change it to a positive 2. That's it. So we are going to write down the coordinates one by one, change the y coordinate to its opposite. And so for our first shape, the first coordinate is -7, -2. So we have our x coordinate and our y coordinate. For shape number 2, we are going to keep the x because we're reflecting over the x-axis, which I should have made sure we all know which one that one is. So this one, oh my goodness. This one here is the x-axis. So we're flipping this shape over the x-axis, okay? So when we go over the x-axis, we are changing just the y number. So we keep -7 and we're going to put a +2. We are going to go ahead and plot that point right now. So we have -7 and +2, okay, as we flip over the x-axis. The next coordinate that we have here is -7, -5. So it changes to, we keep the x-axis and we change the y-axis to its opposite, which is going to be positive now. So -7 and 5. The next one is -4, -2. Again, keep the first one, change the second to a positive, and that's going to be right here. And the last one we have is -4, -5. We are going to stay at -4 and change the 5 to a positive, which is right here. I should have been labeling these all along, so let me do that really quickly. We have -7 and 5, -4 and 5, -4 and 2, -7 and 2. Then all you need to do is create your shape. So we're going to connect the dots, connect the coordinates to create our shape, and it should look exactly the same, just its reflection. So since a square has equal sides, it will look exactly the same, just in a different location. And as you should notice, it does not change. It does not get bigger. It does not get smaller. It does not have different angles in it. It's all the same as it was when you started. Okay, now let's try reflecting it over the y-axis. Okay, so this time, as I'm guessing you probably could guess, the y-axis will stay the same, the y-coordinate, and the x-coordinate will be the opposite. So same number, just positive or negative, you switch that one. Okay, so let's start with the coordinates over here. So the first coordinate of the first shape is -7, -2. We are keeping the y coordinates the same this time. So the first coordinate will change to a +7 and a -2. So we have +7, -2. The next coordinates are -4, -2. Again, changing the x coordinate to a 4 and keeping the -2. And I'm going to write that down right now, 4, -2, and fix this one, which is 7, -2. Now the next coordinate we're going to do is -7, -5. Change the x coordinate to a 7 and keep the -5, which is going to be right here, 7, -5. And the last coordinate is -4, -5. change it to a positive, keep the -5 for the y, and let's label that one. And now you can create your shape by connecting the coordinates or connecting the dots. You might want to use a ruler to keep them nice and straight. And there you have it. This is shape number 1, and this is shape number 2. You've reflected. Okay, this time, make sure that you have a Cartesian plane to work on, a laminated one that you're using a whiteboard or a piece of paper that you can use pencils on. And I'm going to ask you to go ahead, pause the video, and get this shape on your grid with the coordinates written down. Okay, now that you're ready with this shape and the coordinates written down, you are going to reflect this shape over the x-axis right here, okay? So remember, when you're reflecting over the x-axis, the x stays the same, the y changes. So write down all your coordinates, change the y-axis, replot it, and then make your shape. You're going to pause the video now, then come back and see if you did the correct steps. Okay, so for shape number 1, which I'm going to label shape number 1, and shape number 2. So my first coordinate is 2, 8. Remember, the first coordinate stays the same and the second coordinate changes this time. So I have 2 and then -8. I'm going to go ahead and do that. 2, -8. My next one is 8, 8. I'm going to keep the first one, change the second one. So I have 8 and then -8 this time. Then I have 2 and 5. Keep the 2, change the 5. So I have 2, -5. And my 2, sorry, 5. And I over here forgot to do this one, 8, -8. And my last coordinate is 8, 5, which of course changes to 8 and -5, which should be right here. 8, -5. And I can create shape number 2 as close as I can on the lines. It's a little bit difficult here on my iPad. There we go. And this will be shape number 2, and this is reflected. How did you do? Okay, let's try the same shape again. However, this time we're going to reflect it along the y-axis, which you know what that means. That means that the y stays the same and the x changes to the opposite, negative or positive, okay? Y stays the same. So go ahead, set yourself up, do the steps you need to do, pause the video, and come back to see how you did. Okay, let's see how you did. So shape 1 and shape 2. This is shape 1. My first coordinate is 2 and 8, and this time I am changing the x coordinate. So -2, 8. Okay, so we're going to go -2 and 8 will be our first one. The next coordinate is 8, 8. So we're going to change the x to a negative and keep the y. So we have -8 and 8. Then we have coordinate 2, 5. Oh my goodness, I forgot to label these again. -8 and 8. This one is -2 and 8. I apologize. So then we have 2 and 5, and we're going to change the x, keep the y. So make sure when you're writing tests or whatever, you go over it a few times to make sure you're changing the proper coordinate, okay? And if you ever have like a coordinate up here and then all of a sudden a coordinate down here, just know that you've made a mistake and just retrace your tracks and double check, okay? Just like I just did. So -2 and 5, oops. And then 5 and 8 is the last one. Change it to -5, 8. And we are ready to create our shape. It should look the same. When shapes are reflected, they do not change at all, okay? They do not change at all. This is shape number 2. They're just the reflection of the original shape. And when I say they don't change, I mean their size doesn't change, or their angles don't change. That should all stay the same. How did you do on this one? Okay, this one is all you. I'm not even going to highlight the x-axis, although I suggest you look for it, and then do all the steps and see how you do. Come back after you're done and I will do it for you. Okay, so I am set up here. I have shape number 1. Shape number 2 is ready to be written down, all the coordinates. I'm changing over the x-axis, so I'm keeping the x the same, which means this stays as a 4, and the -3 changes to a positive. Let's go there. And I'm going to do 4, 3. My next one is 4, -8. I'm going to keep the x, change the y to a positive, 4, 8. And last but not least, I have 8, -8, which will change into 8, +8. So we have 8 and 8. This is going to be number 2. You are going to be asked to label your coordinates, so make sure you do so either as you go or when you're done. Then you would have drawn out the shape. Make sure that you did all those steps. And does your reflection look like mine? I hope so. Okay, and finally we're going to have you reflect the same shape over the y-axis instead of the x-axis. So please get yourself set up and ready to go. Pause the video now and then come back to see how you've done once you're completely finished. Okay, I have myself set up. I hope that you did a great job and that you reflected it properly. Let's check it out. So I'm set up here. I have shape 1. The first coordinates are 4, -3. And then I have a little underline right here just to remind myself that the y stays the same this time and the x is going to change. So I can just copy that one right over. The x is actually changing to -4. So we have -4, -3. I'm going to try my best to label them as we go this time. Then we have 4, -8. So I'm changing it to -4 and then keeping it at -8. -4, -8. Labeling it as I go. And the last one, 8, -8. I'm changing the first one and keeping the second one the same as -8 as well. -8, -8 is right there. Ooh, look at me go labeling it all. Then you would have connected your coordinates. And I like to write that this is shape number 2 and have a reflection. How'd you do? I hope you did great. I think this is kind of fun, no?